Welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. So for the review today, let me introduce you guys to this San Martin SN058. You've most likely already probably seen it because this watch has been out for quite a while. Now, ever since it came out, I've been meaning to get my hands on this so bad, but I've just not got around to it until San Martin sent me this one in. So there you go. Happy days. Finally got my hands on this absolutely gorgeous looking DJ homage by San Martin. Now, of course, it goes without saying, the main focus on this watch is going to be this gorgeous dial. It is a mop dial. I featured it in a video when I done a wrist shot, and I've worn this since it arrived, and absolutely stunning. I just can't take my eyes off this lovely mother of pearl dial. Now, one thing I will say, I'm glad that I waited a few days before I did review this, because sometimes emotions can get in the way. As I said, as soon as this watch arrived, and because I wanted it for so long, just looking at this mop dial just absolutely blew me away. Now that the emotions have resided, I feel I can give you a good and honest review on this watch. Now, while I'd say it is an amazingly well-finished watch, there are a few issues on this watch that can be addressed. So let's talk about some of the technical aspects, dimensions, specs, etc., and just tell you a little bit more about the watch. Now, the watch I have in hand, I believe it is the SN059. They also have a SN058. Now, what is the difference between the two? There's not much difference really. The only difference I found was one of the models comes with a Jubilee style bracelet, and this one does have a more of a President style bracelet, as you can see, and they do come in different color sets. This mop version comes in a white mother of pearl dial, a blue, which I have in hand, and also a black. Now, the SN058 comes with, as mentioned, a Jubilee style strap. It also comes with a sunburst blue color option, a blue mop dial option, and a gold dial option. Now, there also is a difference in the clasp. This one comes with the upgraded clasp that San Martin are using across most of their watches now, and the SN058 comes with the fold over style clasp. Prices between both, they're exactly the same. The PT5000 movement, which is one of the options that this comes in, is at around £240. Now, they also do a Sellita SW200 movement, which comes in at £350. And the difference between the movements, one is a Chinese Swiss ETA clone, whereas the Sellita is a Swiss ETA clone. Big price difference between the two. However, from what I've seen from the PT5000 movement, it's quite reliable. They are very consistent and very accurate in timekeeping. But with the ETA clones, what you do find that sadly they do inherit the issues that are present on the ETA 2824 movements, which center around the stem and the winding mechanism. So let's go ahead, let's start looking at this watch a little bit closer, and let's start off with specs and dimensions. So specification wise, you do have, as you can see, a full 316L stainless steel case, bezel, bracelet, crown and case back. The watch does run the PT5000 movement, which is a high beat movement, beating at 28,800 vibrations per hour. And it is quite reliable, very accurate and very consistent. In terms of overall or long-term reliability or even workhorse movements, I don't think it's achieved that status yet. You have 100 meters of water resistance, which is aided by a screw-down case back and a screw-down crown. So let's check out the dimensions. The case diameter measures in around 40.5 millimeters. The lug-to-lug is around 47.6 millimeters, and the case thickness is around 12.5 millimeters. You do have a 21 millimeter lug width, and the watch, sized for my 6.5 inch wrist, comes in at just under 130 grams. Now, as you can see, the main focal point of this watch is definitely that dial. Just have a look at the different shades present on this mop dial. I mean, you get just so many different color variants coming off this. You've got the green hues, those pinkish hues on the side, dark blues, and it looks like a very dense, a cloudy sky if you look at it that way. Just so much depth on this dial, just so many different colors, and it's one of those ones, right? It's a watch that is going to stand out, and it looks absolutely stunning. Now, if you go for the variant that has the three different mother of pearl dials, you've got the white and you've got the black as well as this blue. They're going to look absolutely amazing. Like I said, the different colors that you see and that light bouncing off the dial, it's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be one of those pieces that is there to be admired absolutely, and therefore does have a bit of a presence on wrist. Now, taking a closer look at some of the features, you'll see you've got a mixture of applied and printed features present on the dial. At the 12, you do have that San Martin hex logo. I've mentioned on multiple reviews how I really do like that logo. Just adds to the light reflection. We've got some sandblasting, some polishing around that hex, so it catches light really, really well. We've also got an application of baton hour markers all the way around the dial. Polished, chamfered, again, really does catch that light. Just look how well they look on the light. Really well finished. You know, San Martin's finishing is impeccable. I have used some San Martin photos, you know, the micro shots. I don't have the capability to micro shots right now, but you can just see how well finished they are. Very crisp, just superbly executed. At the 12, you've got a dual baton. Again, really slick. I just love how this watch shines and shimmers in the light. Now, hands follow suit. I love the finishing of the second hand. That top cap on the second hand just finished it really well. You don't see that pinion hole. Fully polished. Looking at the hour and the minute hands, again, chamfered and polished. Great finishing on the hands. Now, in terms of printing, you've got automatic 100 meters printed above the 6, and as you can see around the dial, you do have printed minute track with the 5-minute intervals printed as well in white text. Now, moving over to the dial, you do have a silver date frame on this dial, chamfered, polished on the outside, but you also have a sapphire magnification glass present on top of the date, so that does kind of get in the way. A date frame is never good when you do have a Cyclops present. However, I think with this date frame, because of the way it isn't getting in the way of the Cyclops. But now you do have a choice. A lot of people do prefer to take the Cyclops off, but if you want to keep it, you ideally don't want a date frame on there. I'm not fussed. I might take off the Cyclops in the near future and just see how that looks with it off. Now, that dial is protected with a sapphire crystal, which is of course AR coated, but you know, you really can't tell it's AR coated. It doesn't have that strong blue hue that we see on some other watches, so it really doesn't get in the way, and you don't want it to get in the way with a dial that is as stunning as this. I really want to show you guys the lume. Let's see how well lume this watch is. So check that out. BGW9 applied lume, and you know what, really nice, really strong lume as well. It is quite slim, obviously the baton style hour markers and these baton style hands, but the brightness is excellent. It glows really well. You can have great longevity as well, and I think that blue really does suit the watch, and it's really nice to look at. I think the applied indices work really well, as it allows you to fill those up really well with some lume, put some decent layers on there, which gives you a really nice result. Now let's take a look at this fluted bezel. Very smooth to touch, really well finished. Of course, you can see all these highlights here. It has been fully polished, so it just catches just so much light and it shimmers away. It's done really nicely, to be honest. It's really smooth to touch, and just have a look at just that finishing there. Really nicely done. Now, moving over to the case, the first thing, let's have a look at the crown. And yes, we've got this $$ sign, y'all. In the last San Martin that I reviewed, you guys know I'm not a fan. Now, the crown is also pretty small, and it's also pretty slim, so that does make it just a bit difficult to screw out. Now, of course, I understand it is necessary on this style of watch to have a small and slim crown, but you know, there is a matter of functionality that you also need. Now, in terms of winding, the stem is quite smooth. I have had PT5000s that do have a slightly stiffer motion, which need just a bit more torque, but this one seems okay. You know, setting the time, etc., is not a problem. So you can hack the watch, of course, change the time. But when it comes to screwing it back down and in and out, it is just slightly fidgety. You have to kind of catch the threads, which it feels like you're almost going against the threads. Just feels like you're kind of reverse threading it. But once you get it past the first turn, then it does rotate in very, very smoothly. So I don't know what's that about, but it is quite a thin crown. So maybe it's just how they are. And I can imagine that whoever's bought one will have some inconsistencies between them. Now, the case itself is fully polished, and I gotta say, it is polished so well. Very, very smooth in hand. Just so nice. just so nice to touch. Really well done. I love the dimensions, the 12.5mm thickness on this watch. Superb for wearing it under the suit, under a cuff, etc. And you can just see some of the detailing. Very nicely done. No burn marks, no defects present at all. Case back, standard, simple. There's nothing on there. You do have some brushing. So look there, some polishing, and you've got these teeth here. So it's a Rolex style case back. So if you do want to take that off, you need a specialized tool for this. Now, away from the case, of course, let's move on to the bracelet. And being a San Martin bracelet, you know what to expect by now. You do have solid end links, all solid links, screw-in links as well. You do have this milled clasp with this formed outer clasp with that San Martin logo. Super fine satinized brushing on this clasp. I really do like it. It's very effective and it just looks super slick. Okay, moving over, you do have 4 micro adjusts, and yes, the finishing on the bracelet, now the outer links are brushed, very finely brushed, and the center links, you'll find that they are polished. Now, as mentioned, it's a president style bracelet, so you've got these semicircle or half moon style links. Very small links. Of course, what that means is superb comfort. This bracelet is very comfortable. There's no edginess present on the sides of these links. You can see the back side of these links is brushed as well. And the center polishing, it goes really well against this watch. Now, not a lot of people are a fan of this, but you gotta remember it's not a dive watch, so it's made for just beauty basically, and that's why the whole case is polished, and you got all these features present that are, again, very light catching features present. It just helps this watch stand out amazingly well. Yeah, bracelet's really nice. What I do like though, my favorite part of the bracelet, just have a look at those end links. Usually on watches what you find is the longer end link, which of course, you know, fits into the case, but this one, just look how they've done that. It's effectively looks like 2 links that have gone into the end of the watch. I think that's superb. If I just turn this around, the top 2 links, or what they look like are 2 links, is actually just 1 link. Okay, but I love they went into that much detail to do something like this. You also find this on the other variant that they do with the Jubilee style bracelet. So like in most cases, very close attention to detail from San Martin. So how does this watch look on wrist? And as I stated, very comfortable on wrist. I love this bracelet. It fits so well around this wrist. My wrist is 6.5 inches. The case diameter 40mm, fits well as well. 47.5mm on lug. Great dimensions. Like I said, a slip under any cuff, and it has great presence on wrist. You know, it gives you all that space just to really look at the style and just be submerged in that dial. To be honest, every time you wear this watch, great polished details and light on wrist, and it just feels great, right? I think they've done this really well. Super slick finishing, super smooth, no issues there. Now, let's talk about the not so amazing things on this. There's a couple of areas where they can definitely improve. A couple of them I've already called out. Now, the main thing which people are going to talk about is, one, the dimensions. You are always going to have people saying, what about a 39mm or a 38mm, even going down to 36, 37mm, of course, right? I don't mind this 40mm case. I think it's okay. You know, the lug to lug and the thickness of the watch do kind of even it out for me. Now, the other thing is price. Everyone is going to talk about San Martin's pricing, going back to £240, $320-ish for the PT5000. They are expensive, we know that. I think they're all priced, but the smaller features I think that will cost money is, again, looking at end links. They could have gone for a bigger one, which would not suit the watch. You know, you've got this polishing and brushing, you know, the clasp, bracelet, all these little touches, they do add up, and all the smaller points that people moan about on other cheaper brands, you know, San Martin do usually cover those. Great lume, applied hour markers on this dial, of course a mop dial. Now, I'm not saying a mop dial is super expensive. They're not. They're actually quite cheap when you look at grand scale manufacturing, but you know, I think this is easy to justify the cost on a watch that looks like this, and definitely, but that's something, again, it's going to be down to you. A lot of people don't mind spending that much because they know what they're getting, and you get some people that, you know, because it's from China, they don't agree with the pricing of this watch. However, of course, with so many watch reviews, so many people liking these watches, so many people hyping these watches, you know, they are going to start put the pricings up. Now, away from that, looking at actual things or actual sort of negatives of the watch, if you will, that date frame, yeah, not a fan of the date frame. I know quite a few people will take off the Cyclops, but you know, if you're not somebody that has the capacity to do that, that date frame, it does kind of bother you, and that shouldn't really be there if you do have a Cyclops. But you know, because it's a square window, the frame actually, the edge of the frame does fit within that Cyclops, so it's not overly distracting. The second thing for me is, I've mentioned this before, this S. Now, interestingly, on the version with the Jubilee style bracelet, they use the shark logo, which looks okay, right? I mean, it is a dressier watch, and you know, a shark's a big, vicious animal, but it suits the theme. We know San Martin, we know what the logos are. So again, it's that little bit of brand identity, which I've said previously, they do really need to work on. Stick to, you know, whatever logos that you stick to. So that's the only other issue. And the function of the crown, it's not amazing, and I think at this price point they could have put a bit more work in there just to get this function just a bit nicer to use. That's something that you definitely do feel when it comes to just kind of changing the time and messing with the crown. It is a bit jammy when you try to close it up, but then it instantly becomes very smooth, so don't know what's happening there. So yeah, that's my full review on this watch. You know, it's been an absolute pleasure wearing this. Like I said, it's all about the dial. So I hope you guys enjoyed that review. If you are interested in getting this watch, the link will be in the description. I'll put in both variants so you can see the 58 and the 59 and just taking your pick which one you want. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll see you on the next video.